Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of At Home with Dan during this lockdown period. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you one of my favourite sauces. Theoretically it's a basic sauce, but a lot of people struggle with it sometimes. So today I'm making a hollandaise sauce. And a hollandaise sauce is great because from a hollandaise sauce you can then go on to make a lot of other sauces. You can add different things to a hollandaise sauce, which then makes it a different sauce. So things like if you add tarragon and red wine vinegar to it, you make a béarnaise sauce. If you add burnt butter to it, you're making a noisette sauce. If you add orange and lemon to it, it makes it a Maltaise sauce. If you add whipped cream to it, it makes it a mousseline sauce. So as you can see, a hollandaise sauce is a fantastic kind of master recipe that can then translate into a lot of other sauces and go with a lot of other things. So today I'm going to show you how to make the basic hollandaise sauce. And then from that, I'm going to then go on to make a beautiful brunch dish or breakfast dish of eggs benedict. So eggs benedict is a very classic English brunch dish or English breakfast dish. So for the hollandaise sauce, the first thing I've done, which I've already done, is make some clarified butter. So in this pan I put one full block, so 250 grams of butter into here. And what I've done is I've kind of brought it up to the boil. It's melted, brought it up to the boil, and then I've taken it off and let it cool down. And as it cools down, what happens is the fat separates from the milk, and all the milk, protein and whey goes down to the bottom of the pan. So when we come to make our hollandaise, we just want to use the butter, the fat, so the clarified butter off the top. You can make that in advance. Or you can also use a product called ghee, which is used a lot in Indian cookery, but it is literally already clarified butter. So that's our clarified butter. And then what I've got going on here, so in this pan I've already got 4 tablespoons of water, and I'm going to add to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar. It does kind of have to be white wine vinegar unless you're making a béarnaise sauce, which you could use red wine vinegar. Fill in white wine vinegar. If you've got rice vinegar you could use that, but I wouldn't use malt vinegar or anything. It's too dark, it would just make the hollandaise sauce look a bit bizarre. To that I'm just going to add a couple of twists of salt, so it's like a pinch of salt. Give that a little mix together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick that over a heat, and I'm going to reduce that by 1/3 just to intensify. So I'll put that there, let that come up to heat. Right guys, so the vinegar mix has been on for a few minutes, and I've also just let it cool down a little bit so it's not still at boiling temperature. So the next thing we're going to do is get our eggs. So I've got, in this bowl, I've got 4 egg yolks. Just going to give them a little beat up. And then we're just going to take our vinegar mix, and then we're just going to slowly add it to the egg mix and whisking all the time. So that's our vinegar and seasoning added to the egg yolk mix. Now what I'm going to do is place the bowl over a bain-marie. So basically it's a lightly simmering pan of water. Pop that over there. As soon as you've put your bowl on the bain-marie, you need to work your eggs, you need to whisk your eggs. If you just let them sit, what you're going to end up with is scrambled egg in the bottom of the bowl. So you just want to whisk, and we're looking for a really kind of thick, light and fluffy egg mixture. Kind of goes to like a sabayon pretty much. So we just need to keep mixing that until it gets to the cook stage, which is really thick and it leaves a ribbon in the bowl. Could take 5 minutes or so, 5 to 6 minutes. If at any point you think your pan's getting too hot, what you can do is just lift your bowl off if you think it's going to start cooking too quickly, and then put it back. Right guys, so a few minutes have passed and I can already see that the mix is starting to thicken up. It's going really nice and white and light and fluffy, and it's starting to leave a little ribbon into the bowl there. So I'm just going to give that another minute or so. Right guys, so we've now got the base egg cooked. It's gone really nice and thick and creamy. It's doubled in size. So hopefully you can see there. And it leaves a nice thick ribbon in the bowl. So now that's at the cook stage, we'll take that off the heat. Just turn that off. And from here, what we're going to do is slowly incorporate our clarified butter into the mix. So like I said, the clarified butter is already done. And what I'm going to do is just pour that in a kind of gentle stream, in a steady stream. And just whisk that in. If at any point you think, oh no, it's split or it's splitting, put your clarified butter down and take a spoonful of the water out of your pan and whisk in a spoonful of water, and that should bring it back from being split. A lot of people think as soon as the hollandaise splits that's it, game over, but actually adding a little bit of warm water to it really does help it. Sometimes it only splits because it's getting too thick, maybe it's got too much butter in it. So that's now all of my clarified butter added, and I don't know if you can see in the bottom of the pan there, but I'm just left with the milk solids there. So that's finished with. And then we're left with our lovely, glossy, thick, smooth, creamy hollandaise sauce. So what we're going to do, you essentially need to serve hollandaise quite quickly, okay, not necessarily straight away, but quite soon after making. So I'm just going to put that to one side in a little warm area, and it can keep for an hour or so there. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that behind me, leave that where it is for now. And then to go on to actually make our little brunch dish, I'm going to poach a couple of eggs. So I've got a pan of water on here. I'm just going to add some white wine vinegar to that water. A few tablespoons. Right, so in these ramekins, I've cracked my eggs into the ramekins. Sometimes it's just easier to pour it in. You don't have to, you can crack them straight into the pan. But go into the ramekins, it's easier to go in. Right, so the trick with a poached egg, get the water boiling, like really boiling to begin with. And once it's up and boiling really vigorously, I'm going to give it a stir with a spoon, put a little kind of swirl into it, and then I'm going to turn the temperature down so it's not boiling, it's just kind of slowly ticking over. So we can see that's boiling away there now. I'm going to give that a really good stir. I'm going to turn this down to what I call a simmering kind of pace, and then I'm going to pop my eggs in. So 1, 2. Normally I wouldn't cook more than 4 eggs in one pan at one go. Sometimes it's just a little bit too much and the water gets a bit kind of overtaken by all the egg white and it ends up all over the place. So whilst they're in there, and because we turned it down to that kind of simmer, you can forget about them from a little bit. So this should take 4 or 5 minutes. So I've got an English muffin here. I'm just going to toast that English muffin. And then I've also got some ham as well, which is our classic eggs benedict. So there's other variations of an eggs benedict as well, actually. So the two most common ones are an eggs royale, which is basically your poached eggs with hollandaise on an English muffin, but instead of ham we use smoked salmon. And then there's also the vegetarian version, which is called eggs Florentine, and basically it's the same situation, but instead of the ham, it's with sauteed spinach. So the eggs are looking good. So I'm not sure if you can kind of see that on the camera, to be honest. But the water's hardly boiling, it's only just ticking over. Because we put all that initial heat into the water, it doesn't need to be rapidly boiling. If you rapidly boil it, that's kind of what breaks the whites up. If it's boiling too vigorously when you put the eggs in, basically everything just gets thrown off all over the place. So the idea is get it really hot to begin with and then turn it down so it's just going into hot water, and then just let it sit for 5 minutes. There's no salt in there either, it's just the vinegar and water, and ideally try and use a slightly deeper pan. And what that does is, by using a deeper pan, when you crack the egg in or pour the egg in, it takes longer to get to the bottom, so it almost starts to cook and forms a bit of a shell around the egg white, so when it hits the bottom it doesn't stick to the bottom. If you use a really shallow pan, you quite often find that your egg sticks to the bottom of the pan. Right guys, so I'm just going to get the English muffin out of the oven. So that's nicely toasted. Pop that there as it's still hot. So the next thing we need to do is stick some ham on the muffin. So as I say, Florentine is spinach, Royale is smoked salmon, and then we need our eggs. So we just take our eggs out, drain off any excess water, pop that on there. So that's one. Two. And then last but not least, our hollandaise sauce. Give it a good stir. Nice thick. Nice thick coating. So it's a classic eggs benedict with our hollandaise sauce. Just going to take a knife and fork and we'll have a dig in and see what it's like. So hopefully when we cut into this we should have a nice runny yolk. Right guys, thank you very much for joining me at home with Dan. Hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. Look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much and happy cooking guys, take care.